So an ICE official were testifying in front of I'm not sure which committee this was, but it's Maggie Hassan. And they were testifying as to the implications of their zero tolerance policy and the policy of basically kidnapping children and separating them from their parents. Here is the Executive Associate Director for ICE, Matthew Albence, the Acting Deputy Commissioner for Customs and CPB, Robert Perez, admitting that they really hadn't done their due diligence when it came from assessing what their policy was going to do to the children in particular, obviously, that they kidnap.
So again, Mr. Albence, have you seen these statements from these DHS whistleblowers?
I don't believe I have, no.
And Mr. Perez?
I have not, Senator.
Beyond the pediatricians and the whistleblowers, Immigration and Customs Enforcement itself set up an advisory committee of subject matter experts to review family detention. And here's what the agency's own advisory committee found. It said that DHS should, quote, discontinue the general use of family detention, and that in cases where detention was absolutely necessary, families should be detained for, quote, the shortest amount of time possible. Now, given that it is DHS's own findings, I'm going to assume that you guys are familiar with that. Mr. Albence, given these findings from the American Academy of Pediatrics, DHS whistleblowers, and your agency's own advisory committee, why does Immigration and Customs Enforcement continue to support modifying the Florence Agreement to allow for the indefinite detention of children?
Okay, as I previously stated, we do not have indefinite detention. The Supreme Court has ruled on that.
But you are recommending the modification or overruling of the Flores decision, which would allow the indefinite detention of children.
Again, there is no indefinite detention of children. People are detained, and just
right now there isn't because the Flores
but again, our
agreement.
If you let me answer, please.
Excuse me, but I have limited amount of time here. And what I'm trying to get at is you are all here saying, or three of the four of you are here saying, that you want us to allow the federal government to do something that the Flores Agreement does not currently allow. So I understand your current position. But why are you here recommending a set of changes that would allow the indefinite detention of children?
Okay. What we are doing in this regulation is implementing the process as contemplated by the court in its ruling, which was requiring the licensing of that children could be held in licensed facilities. We have been unable to get state licensure in most places. What we have requested and are proposing underneath this regulation is to establish a federal licensing scheme which will be similar and mirror to what we currently utilize in our standards that would enable us to have the authority to hold these individuals. There's no one is arguing there's not a humanitarian crisis. I think the numbers show it.
Mr.
Humanitarian
Albence,
crisis also.
I have limited time, so I'm going to ask you to stop for a second, because what I'm concerned about is your own agency says that there shouldn't be indefinite or long-term detention of children, that it should be as short as possible. And instead of going towards the remedies that could help us, some that Senator McCaskill suggested, some that you've heard from other members of the panel suggested, instead of going towards those remedies to deal with the immigration surge, you are instead recommending something that experts in child development and welfare ask you not to do.
That guy is effing evil. He knows exactly what he's being accused of, what he's ignored from his own agency, and sitting there and trying to be obtuse about it.